everybody. I'm glad I was able to get a stream in today. That puts us at 3 streams for the week. We're back on track, baby. And then my boys breakdown will go up later this evening. I'll have another boys video for you tomorrow. And then next week is a big week with, of course, not only Comic-Con coverage, but Deadpool and Wolverine will finally hit theaters. So lots of stuff going on. And yes, I agree, Cosmics. R.I.P., of course, to Bob Newhart, who just passed away. A legend, an absolute legend. Thank you, Lady Jennifer Snow. I really appreciate the support. It's been a slow year. Hollywood is still, I was looking at July last year for comparison, and there is just no comparison. Last year, even though, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine were all very excited about it, it's still, we don't have a Barbenheimer. Barbenheimer was incredible. We were coming off of the craziness of Mission Impossible and the new Indiana Jones. Thank you, Drago. Thank you, Bay. Hey, Mark. And, Secret Invasion, when we kind of were still, not sure how we felt about Disney Plus shows. I mean, there's just so much more going on just a year ago. It's just, it's crazy to think of the difference. It's interesting, Sherm. Inside Out 2 was a very successful film, but a film that nobody really wanted to talk about. So, from a coverage perspective, it didn't really move the needle. But, it's just and even these shows, even The Acolyte and House of the Dragon and The Boys have had a little bit, I think it was a mistake to drop all of them in the same month. It was very difficult to cover. It was exhausting. It was really hard to do it. And I think they all kind of ate into each other's space a little bit. I think, they should have spread it out. Jamie says, good for us. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. But I think it would have benefited the shows to have spread themselves out a little bit. Very curious to see what you think about House of the Dragon this week. I know that a lot of conservative viewers have really been championing that show as the alternative. And I think you're going to be really surprised about this week. All right, so Patrick, I didn't react to those trailers because, to be honest with you, I'm still recovering from my cold, and I was focused on getting the boys' stuff done, and I just wasn't able to react to those 2 trailers. So I'm hoping to get back on track for next week, and I just prioritized the boys' coverage. That's just what I decided to prioritize. Because I was up late last night preparing for the boys. Then, it's like a domino effect. You miss one trailer, then you miss the next, and then you're like, but I got to focus on getting this boys stuff done. I'm a one-man band. I do all my own editing. And it's just, I think I put out a lot of content. I think I put out more than most channels, in fact. I didn't even watch the Alien Romulus trailer because I was like, I'm just going to see the movie. And then as for Beetlejuice, I would agree with Josh Loves Movies that while that trailer was excellent and I think made me feel a little bit more confident in the movie, certainly in Michael Keaton's performance, I do think that they showed way too much, and I kind of wish I hadn't seen that trailer. All right, but next week I'm going to be really trying get back on the horse, man. But I really wanted to make sure that the boys' coverage went up because I was not able to cover last week's episode, and I felt really bad about that. All right, and I don't react to Max trailers anymore because of their policy on reactions. They don't even allow breakdowns of their trailers. So I'll just cover the shows themselves. That's fine. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the 3 stories of the day. And then, of course, as always, at the end, you can ask me anything that you would like. Hey, Marnique. Hey, right back to you. All right. So story number 1. Hold on. Boop. Okay, so this story hilariously broke while we were doing the Emmy live video yesterday, and a lot of you were like, who cares about the Emmys, Grace? The Russos are coming back for the Avengers. And I felt bad that we couldn't discuss it, but we were doing the Emmys. But now we can talk about it. I do think that the internet, social media in particular, I see a shifting even away from YouTube to social media for news. With some accounts even writing like bullet points, because that's all you need. But I feel like what was really lost in the reporting yesterday was that the deal is only in talks. It's not done. So a lot of people felt that it was a done deal when they saw the headline. When it's not, they've just, entered discussions. It's going to be quick discussions, because just the other day, on Tuesday, we were talking about Marvel's Comic-Con panel, and we were like, wouldn't it be nice if they could clarify what was going on with Avengers? And it looks like maybe that's exactly what they're going to be doing. Now, the Russo brothers apparently are in talks to come back for 2 more movies. That's right, Dana Leary. Ask Adam Driver about talks. He was in talks for Fantastic Four. I think they are, of course, shooting for a Comic-Con announcement. And not only would we probably get the directors, but I suspect we would get new titles or 1 new title, and we'd get a better idea of what these 2 new movies are going to look like. And, it's again going to be like Infinity War, shoot an Endgame, shooting them back to back so that they can, release them in quicker succession and they really kind of play into each other. I mean, it was beautiful. I'm not saying necessarily it can happen again, but I can see them wanting to try to repeat it. So the first Avengers movie is currently set for May 1st, 2026, and then the next one would be May 7th, 2027. Just a year apart, just like before, and Marvel is always kicking off the summer movie season. Now, what's it going to be? I'm sure I'll be probably making a video with all the actual, answers in about a week when Marvel presents a week from Saturday evening. Their panel starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I think they're still going to do Secret Wars. I think they're going to have, maybe it'll be 2 parts. Maybe Secret Wars Part 1 and Part 2. Because we saw a tease in the Deadpool and Wolverine teaser. They had that cover of the Secret Wars comic book. But then also, of course, there were rumors that Hugh Jackman would come back and maybe even Tobey Maguire. And, you can't take too long, if you want to have a true Secret Wars, you got to get this train moving. You got to get it out of the station. It's supposed to be apparently shooting pretty soon. I saw that rumor, Dreads, that Robert Downey Jr. would be playing a version of Doom. That's ridiculous. I hope they don't do that. Everybody knows that if Robert Downey Jr. comes back, it should be his artificial intelligence. And, but these days, I think none of us feel that Marvel is on quite the sure footing that it used to be. And so before it would be like, oh, Marvel, Kevin Feige wouldn't do that. And now we're like, maybe he would. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to see Robert Downey Jr. play another character. Either he's Tony or he's just not coming back. All right, so I liked the idea of Tom Cruise playing a different version of Tony Stark because he'd had wanted to, Tom Cruise was originally going to play that role. That to me was a fun idea. But this to me just is like, I think it would be a really bad idea. So, they've had a couple of Avengers directors at this point. Destin Daniel Cretton, of course, was originally going to do one of the movies. Ryan Coogler, his name was floated around. Sean Levy, his name was floated around twice, for potentially taking on the gig. I think that they have a little bit of an issue right now. You would think people would be lining up at the door to direct the next Avengers movie. But then I think that was, after Endgame. I think now that we're after phase, 5 or whatever? Or 4? Phase 4? I don't know if people would still be as excited. I think that the current creative control is a little bit of an issue, and then also the track record. I think, Marvel has a lot of creative control over their products. To the point where, they've told a couple of directors, don't worry about it, we'll handle the action sequences for you. And that's really blown up in those directors' faces. After what happened to poor Nia DaCosta, I think it would be very difficult to get another director to sign on at any stage in their career. Because, I think, especially also with the way fandom is right now, I think you might see a number of directors unwilling to get into any of these franchises because fandom is so aggressive. And it can, really hurt a career even beyond the project. I think we're getting into phase 5, Danny. Maybe, I mean, yeah, that's right. There's the rumor that Jordan Peele took a meeting over there. It's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. Now, the Russos, of course, as you might recall, were really campaigning to come back a while ago. They were like, we want back in. And Kevin Feige said, no, thank you. The rumor here is that they wanted more money and they wanted more creative control. And Kevin Feige said, I think also, I haven't heard this, but I would guess that, it's a little bit like who's in control here. If who do you attribute the success to? Thank you, Gareth. Gareth, you're always so generous. Do you contribute the success to Kevin Feige or to the Russo brothers, right? Like, who's successful? But I think that now that they've split up and neither one of them has been successful, I think now they don't care. They're like, we just need another hit on our resumes. Who cares who gets the credit, right? Now, the thing about the Russo brothers, so I've seen 2 reactions to their potentially coming back. One is, yay, we're back in business. And the other one is, what a boring and safe choice. Which just goes to show you where fandom is today. You could literally give them the directors of their favorite Marvel movies and they would be like, I don't want it. Now it stinks. Get them out of here. And it's like, there's just no pleasing you guys. And you're like, to some degree that is true. And that's why people are like a little bit scared to be in the space, as I just said. Thank you, Gareth. What a nice thing to say. I'm glad you feel that way. So yeah, you want a poll, Zay? I know you guys like the poll. We'll do a poll on this. Okay, so you can vote while we talk. All right, so do you want the Russos to come back? Yes. Not a guaranteed, but let's try it. And then no. Okay. And then I guess, yeah, some of you say don't care, Nacho Flores. Okay, we'll do I no longer care. Okay. Anybody who's watching, by the way, just as a reminder, can vote in the poll. Okay. All right. So anyway, I see that the poll is working. All right. So my feeling is that nobody but the Russos have really understood the importance of big action set pieces. Remember that Steven Soderbergh quote where he said he was at an airport and he saw the target demographic, a dude in his 30s, watching a movie on his laptop or whatever, and the guy was just fast forwarding from action sequence to action sequence. He wasn't even watching the movie anymore. And Steven Soderbergh was like, cinema is dead. But I was like, who directed that movie? And I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Russo brothers, because I do think that the action sequences, particularly in Endgame, were phenomenal. And Civil War also, that's right. And then, he's watching Civil War, Mika? Was it Civil War? Civil War, like the airport battle? I made a whole video about the airport battle. That was great. I mean, thank you, Russo brothers. I mean, that was so fun. So that was good. And then also, even Winter Soldier had really incredible action sequences. So I don't know if Infinity War had that much great action sequences. Oh, thank you, guys. I see your kind words. That's really sweet of you. Jay, that's an interesting point. Didn't Endgame and Infinity Wars benefit from 10 years of buildup? For sure, but I don't think you should underestimate the importance of the action set pieces. I mean, those were great. How about when Captain America fought Captain America and then checked out his own butt? I mean, this stuff was gold. Gold, gold, gold. Right? Like, it was really just fantastic. Sibs, there was the fight in Wakanda. I think the most amazing thing about that was the snap and who disintegrated. That, again, one of my most visceral theatrical experiences. And that's the Russo brothers. Trisha, they produced Extraction, but that's a good point. Even, I wonder if they could, why did they get Sam, what was his name, Sam Hargrave or whatever? Maybe they should have called him up. But Extraction has tremendous action sequences. And I would love to bring that kind of action back to Marvel. They just have not had it ever since the Russos left. So, to me, that's a big part of my wanting to bring them back. I'm not sure why Kevin Feige hasn't sat down the other directors and said, do you see the action sequences? Where are your action sequences? I don't see no action sequences. You know, like it would just, I'm not sure why Kevin Feige just didn't incorporate that into his own overall formula. I see your nice comments, Aiden. Thank you. I'm trying not to interrupt the conversation, but I do see it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Bubbles. All right, so, yeah. Oh, Tamed the Three Bears says, I just snapped part of his meeting. I'll bring them back. I am an altruistic, forgiving Thanos. So, well, I hope you wanted them back. Okay, all right, so anyway. All right, so, I think that to me is very crucial. I really think that the Russo brothers are pretty good with their business sense, at least when it comes to Marvel movies, because you know what gives me pause for concern? Every movie they made after they left. Oh, let's get out the arrow. Oh, it's so bad. It's worse. It's not, forget greatest hits. My God. So there's Avengers Endgame, and they sure have been busy. They sure have been busy. So actually, for what they directed, these extraction movies were great, though. As for what they actually directed, they did Cherry with Tom Holland, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like, it was so awful. Like, it was shocking. And then I have to say The Gray Man, which they really hyped with Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, that movie was also quite poor. And that had a lot of action set pieces, but, it was a bad movie. It was a really bad movie. They were like, remember they were going to we're going to make a Gray Man franchise. And everybody was like, please don't. So that's pretty bad. Now, they luckily produced Everything Everywhere All at Once and won an Oscar. So that's pretty awesome, but I don't really think that was them. And then also this movie called Electric State, which hasn't come out yet. So we'll see how it turns out. But, that's pretty bad. So, we never thought that Kevin Feige would lose his mojo. And so I think that no mojo is safe. So I do worry about whether or not the Russo brothers could even still deliver the movies that they once did. Maybe it was just a special time that maybe can't be repeated. It's a little bit scary. But, gosh darn it, they're going to try. So I think what's really crucial is what the movies are going to be about. Who's going to be the big bad? What's the setup? How do they tie together? That to me is crucial. So I'm curious to hear more information about what they're going to be potentially doing at Comic-Con. And then also, let's get a look at Deadpool and Wolverine. We haven't actually seen the movie yet. We are very close, but I think that's going to, I think how we feel in a week, a lot's going to happen in the next week. Deadpool and Wolverine, we're finally going to get a look at it, and we're going to see the Marvel panel at Comic-Con. I think that's going to be, I think we'll have a much better idea of what we're actually dealing with when I'm covering this stuff in a week, so we'll see. We'll see. All right, so let me close the poll. Thank you for your votes. All right, so 55% of you are 100% in, and I also am in that group. I just feel let's try it, especially since they can't get anybody else to take the gig. 25% are like, you know what, it's not a guarantee, but let's try it. So that's incredible. That is almost, that's like 80%. That's about 80%. So obviously this is a good choice. 15% of you just don't care anymore. And 3% of you would like somebody else. I do think that the Russo brothers will find themselves in a very different world, and I think that it's going to be a less kind fandom, and I think they're going to be held to a higher bar. I think they're going to find it a very different space to be working in. But again, what else are they going to do? I feel like, and I think they can roll with the punches. Remember they released that wonderful letter saying don't ruin the spoilers in Endgame? Those were good times. Jacob says, what about the writers? Yeah, get rid of all these Rick and Morty writers. I haven't heard about Michael Waldron. Let's see what they decide. But I think that writing has also been a huge issue. Let's see here. Jeff Blue also says if the Russo brothers come back, they must bring back Marcus and McFeely, the writers, with them. Those two are the real secret sauce. I think it's the whole package. I think it's the Russo brothers. I think it's their writers. I think that it's Kevin Feige. I think, it takes a village, my friends. Sib says, my biggest fear is that since all these new characters haven't met each other, or have been fully developed, the hype levels will only be medium. Well, that's why you got to make the fights incredible. That's why you got to like really be like, I can't wait to see these characters throw down and to think about how it would work. You know, like just like a whole movie that's the airport battle. And I think that would be great. You know, Dwayne Johnson wanted to do something like that if he took over DC, and I had thought that was a good idea. You know, he wanted to be the Suicide Squad and the Justice League both going after Black Adam. That's such a crazy hubristic approach that it would take both those superhero teams to take him down. But I don't care. I think it would have been good. I think it would have been a palate cleanser for DC. Trisha points out, lots of good contributions today, Trisha, in terms of commentary. Thank you. Trisha points out that the Russos are Marvel fans, like Kevin Feige. That's true. Kevin Feige, for some reason, went on a hiring spree of people who never even read comics, much less were fans of them. And I think that he, unfortunately, paid the price for that. Let's see here. BG, there's a rumor that Michael Waldron was let go, but it's never been confirmed. Let's see here. Steven says they need to make sure to get good writers and scripts and to have them in good shape before going into production. Well, that's true for sure. You know, fixing these movies in post is awfully expensive and doesn't even always work. And then Josh points out that they have a good relationship with Marvel talent. Well, I wonder if they still, does Tom Holland still like them after they put him in that awful movie? But we'll see. Hey, Bison. That's a funny name. Hey. So we'll see. But yeah, a lot of directors have had a tough time, but I feel let's go for it. Wanda's attorney says, do you worry about them working with all these new characters and storylines after being away from the MCU for so long? Well, as Trish pointed out, they're fans, so I'm sure they've been keeping track. And I don't even think it's a different universe. I think it's not even a formed universe, which is part of the problem. I think you know what I would just really like to have happen? I would like to settle on the directors, the writers, the title, and the team. What is the new Avengers team? That's really important. And they can't say everybody because that's not a choice. That's kind of like the problem that they have now. I think the MCU lost a lot of its structure. You know, it was like set a team of Avengers, make little spin-off movies for them, and then, you know, it was supposed to be get a new team of Avengers and then make spin-off shows and movies for them. But they didn't do that. Resident Justice says, what would you pivot Avengers 5 to be if we're not going to do Kang? I'd heavily consider doing Avengers versus X-Men as a lead-in to Secret Wars. Well, as I've said before, I'd go straight to Secret Wars. We've just been talking about this. Why put off until tomorrow what we can watch today? If you're working towards Secret Wars, just put me in Secret Wars, man. Secret Wars, well, I guess it depends what version they're doing. You know, I think that's another problem that we might have. I think a lot of you are going off of the more recent Jonathan Hickman version, where it's like an alternate universe. Whereas I think a lot of us are also going off of the original Battle World thing, where it's just a lot of fighting. I wouldn't do the fighting. I think people are really multiversed out. Matthew says, if the new characters, who do you think would be the best choices for leads? Thanks, Bison. I think you keep trying to get me to say your full name. I would like to see She-Hulk as a major character. I love you too, Andrew. If that's how you pronounce your name, Andrew. Hey, Vincent, welcome back. Travis says, they did the Winter Soldier. That's good enough for me. I agree. Let's see here. Kay says, Sam Hargrave needs to come back to the action. Yeah, I love Sam Hargrave. Where is he? I guess maybe he's making another Extraction. Ryan says, just recast Kang. It makes no sense. It was Avengers versus X-Men that makes no sense. We're in the multiverse saga, not the mutant saga. Oh, so Ryan is saying, you can't jump to mutants. We're still in the multiverse saga. I don't think Kang really worked out. Even if you hadn't had all the problems with Jonathan Majors, I don't think they had a good enough grasp on what Kang could do. I don't think anybody ever has, to be honest with you. Pick a problematic character, get a problematic storyline. You know, I think, Kevin Feige he messed up Secret Invasion. I don't know how you mess up Secret Invasion. I mean, the thing was beautiful. But I think, they're moving towards comics that themselves are not very sturdy. Let's see here. Eric says, I think Marvel should have done a new Avengers film. Yeah, well, let's see. They might be announcing that. Although I think Secret Wars is a great idea. Look at some of you not liking She-Hulk. There ain't nothing wrong with She-Hulk. Tatiana Maslany was great. It was just the material. Jordan says the Russos, speaking of material, just luck out because Spider-Man and Black Panther were both introduced in Civil War and never would have been that good without... You mean the movie? I mean, or do you think the Russos did a good job introducing them? Well, hopefully they would introduce some cool new characters in their Avengers movie. But She-Hulk CGI might have been bad, Obed, but that was on Disney+. It's going to look good for the movie. I agree with Jeff. I just want Secret Wars Part 1 and 2. Keep it simple. Dane says Gaia from Secret Invasion basically broke the universe. Yeah, that was a disaster. I hope we never see that character again. Never again. Jazz says, I agree with you, but Secret Wars is a big story. It can't be pulled off in one film. Yeah, that's right. Do Secret Wars 1 and 2. That's fine with me. I'll take that. Although, how are they going to expand it? I mean, I don't know if the films are still going to be fitting in like the way they're supposed to. Because, you know, everything's out of whack. And, I mean, it was very structured before. And I think that gave us a lot of faith. That we were like, oh, there's a plan. There's a plan. And now we're like, I don't think there's a plan. Oh, it is Andrew. Ah, good to know. I'm glad. All right. That's right, little baby pizza. None of us will ever forget Gaia's little tiny Drax arm. That was pretty funny. Although Mika points out that Mission Impossible and Horizon Parts 1 and 2 didn't work out. Maybe, but you know, I think the cliffhanger ending is really important. It's really hard because Infinity War and Avengers Endgame worked out spectacularly. I think everybody should slow down. I agree with Trisha again, that, you know, they have the pedal to the metal. It's like, dude, slow your roll. Get back on steady ground. There's too many movies that are coming out and too many of them aren't good. And I just think audiences need a break from the superhero genre. Mish says, Sam, Carol, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Doctor Strange, She-Hulk. There's your team. Wanda and Doom should be the main catalyst to wrap up multiverse and put it back in the box. You got a lot of Doom fans. I'm not a big Dr. Doom fan. I got to tell you. I think a lot of regular audiences are going to be like, so he never takes off that mask? And they're like, no, he's horribly scarred. And you're like, this guy with a mask and a cape and a hood? And they're like, yes. And I think it's Doom. I still think Doom is a hard sell to general audiences. I really do. Maybe they're like, what if it's Robert Downey Jr. under there? And you're like, I don't think that's going to help. Okay, all right. Let's get to the next story. I think we're ready for the next story. Shahar says, is he the Darth Vader of Marvel? Well, yeah, is everyone just going to say he's a Darth Vader ripoff? That's going to annoy some Doom fans. I mean, really. And also, I got to tell you, I don't know if I'd be copying Star Wars these days. You're like, oh, you know what we should do? We should combine these together. All right. And you're like, hey, Wildflower. That's very sweet. Hello to you. Top of the morning to you in Ireland, although I think it's night where you are. Okay. Story number 2. Boop. Ah, look at Zazzy. Look at Zazzy. He's just going for it. I love that outfit. You can't quite see it, but just out of frame, there's a garment bag on a hanger there at the hotel from Tom Ford. You're like, oh, Zazzy. Why? He's like, Zazzy's just going to lean into it. You know, you're like, what are you guys threatening to take writers and actors' homes? And they're like, yep. Oh, that is funny, Leon. He is kind of giving J.R. Ewing. That's hilarious. We never really see Zazzy speak, so we can't really fall in love with him as a villain. All right, so the latest headline. You know, just the other day he fired some people. The latest headline is that he might split up Warner Brothers into 2 different companies. Why? Because he's got to get the damn stock price up. Here it is. It's currently in the crapper, like so many things. Poor Hollywood. Hollywood just lives in the crapper these days. We got to get out of here, man. All right. So anyway, the current Warner Brothers stock is at $8.52. All right. The 52-week high that you can see on the bottom there is $15 basically. That's real low. Okay. So just for comparisons, I'm sure Zaslav is like, what do I got to do to get my stock up, man? He had Barbie come out, Wonka, Dune Part 2, Godzilla X Kong. He was just dominating the box office until Inside Out 2 came along. But really, some of you have pointed out in the past, it's entertainment versus tech stock. Everybody wants to be like Netflix. You know what Netflix stock sells for? A ridiculous $643 a share and change. That's nuts. Netflix stock is so high that they pay their employees partially with it. And that's why when the stock dips, everybody freaks out. But that's incredible. Even only Amazon is $183. So it goes Netflix at $643, Amazon at $183. Then both Disney and Sony are at half that at around $90. Okay? Comcast, which is NBC Universal, is at $40. Paramount is at $11.63. They just got sold. Sherry Redstone's fairy tale had a happy ending. Why not Zazzy's? And then, I don't know what Apple's stock is. Let me look up Apple's stock. And then, of course, Warner Brothers is at the very bottom. Oh, with this frickin' $8 and change. Apple stock is $224. But they also sell a lot of products. So that's very different. Although, of course, Amazon also Amazon is like, oh, yeah, we also make content. You're like, that's crazy. Riley, HBO is a division of Warner Brothers, so it's a part of that. All right, so everybody wants to get, so Zazzy really wants to get his stock up because, of course, as he's been trying to do from day one, sell this mofo, okay? So the latest idea is that he would spin off the entertainment studio, Warner Brothers itself, and the streaming service, Max, into a separate company. Why would he do that? Well, the idea is that company would have no debt. Paramount had debt. It had $14 billion of debt. But Warner Brothers has almost $40 billion in debt. Remember, this is why AT&T could never make the company work and sold to Zazzy. And AT&T also still has some stock, so they, of course, are pushing for a sale because they would profit from that as well. So there's just too much red ink in the Warner Brothers books. So they're going to maybe start a new book. They're going to be like, oh, look, here's a new book. And I think, obviously, what would happen to that new company? It would be sold. So they're like, nobody wants to buy all of Warner Brothers Discovery, but maybe somebody would buy the entertainment studio and all of its IP, which is very valuable, and the streaming service, which, has good traffic to a degree. I mean, it certainly has good brand recognition and all the shows that go on it. Although Zazzy has shown no loyalty to his own streaming service, for instance, Batman Cape Crusader is going to be on Amazon, which is nuts. I can't believe I can't talk about it, but let me just say, I can't believe that he must not have watched it. I don't know if maybe Zazzy's not even a fan of this stuff. He loves reality TV over dramas because it's cheaper. And there is some method to his madness. But the fact that would not air on Max to me is shocking and sad because it should be on Max. It's really crazy. All right, so anyway, that's the plan here. That's why he wants to do it. He wants to split it off so it's more attractive to a buyer and sell it. And he still wants to sell the rest of the stuff. I mean, he might not do it. Oh, that's true, Mystic. Zazzy does seem to have a particular problem with animation for some reason, which is weird. People love animation. And it's now, once again, cheaper to make. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But it's really an insane situation. Zazzy's not necessarily going to do this. It's just something he was contemplating. Although I think we're at a point where if he could clearly do anything, before you would be like, nobody would do that. That's too crazy. But now you're like, he might. He might do it. And he's kind of changing the game. He never brought back Coyote versus Acme. Remember that? Sherm just brought it up. Remember, everybody said this was a great movie. We can force him to sell it to somebody else. And he didn't. He didn't do it. It'll never see the light of day unless maybe somebody buys it and then decides to release it. But it's just really incredible. But I think that the bottom line is no matter what happens and how it's done, this stuff's all getting sold. It's all for the purposes of selling it. As a whole, as bits and pieces, just like Paramount, Warner Brothers will be sold. He hasn't done anything yet. He's been able to do something since April 2024. Remember, is when he could officially start trying to sell. And he was meeting with Paramount at the end of last year to potentially do something, bits and pieces there. Didn't come together. I don't even think the Paramount deal is 100% through just yet, but it pretty much is. And we'll see how that, if it all changes the studio. I don't think that it will too much. I think it'll be just kind of more of the same over there. I think you're seeing a lot of streamlining. I think a lot of worrying about the bottom line. I do believe that, somebody pointed this out, and it's like, and it's really stuck with me, that CEOs are only beholden to the investor, to the stockholder. That CEOs feel they have no responsibility for their employees or their customers. And I think that is really a shame, and I think it's why you're seeing a lot of the decisions that you're seeing. I wish that was somehow changed, but it's not. And, I guess the only hope that employees and customers have is that if the company's stuff doesn't do well, then the stock doesn't do well, and then the shareholders are upset with the CEO. But it's a very difficult scenario. And the more consolidation that you have, the more it affects people's jobs. And that's very concerning as well. And in fact, even at the executive level, I don't know if you heard about this, but a lot of executives in Hollywood have been losing their jobs, and because everything is smaller, there's nowhere else to hire them. But yet they have a skill set that isn't applicable really to a different industry. And so it's really weird to see. Because there was an expansion for a while there, where there were tons of executives, and now that they're paring back down, and the executives have nowhere to go. And it's you don't usually see that level of unemployment in that salary range. So it's a bizarre scenario. I mean, you might end up seeing it in other industries as well, but it's something right now that's unique to the industry. C Black points out that back to Avengers, that the rumor is that it'll be X-Men versus Avengers. I gotta tell you, that was a bad comic. X-Men and the Avengers don't mix that well to me. I would advise against that, because the comic was not good. Basically what happened was the Phoenix Force came back and took over a couple of X-Men, and so that allowed them to level up with the Avengers. So, Does anybody have any questions or comments about this story before we move to the third story of the day, which I dug out of the bottom of the entertainment barrel? Emmanuel, I will not be covering the Beetlejuice trailer. I'm sorry. I decided to focus on the boys. That's another thing with having 3 shows at once. It really eats up a lot of the time in the people who do coverage. Jeff Blue says, is this why Zaslav is changing all the shows on HBO to HBO instead of Max? No, I think HBO would remain. I think HBO would be spun off. I don't think HBO would not. I think HBO would have to be a part of this package. Bye, Danny. I think it would leave a huge hole in it. If somebody says they were going to buy the creative entertainment stuff at Warner Brothers, they would fully expect that would include HBO. Mika says, would you say that Warner Brothers is still the best studio for blockbuster original films? Well, we haven't really seen what the new leadership is like. Everything that's come out recently has been from the people, who everybody got upset with because of what happened with DC. But I do really like Warner Brothers as a studio. I think they're a wonderful studio. I think they're very cozy. Their offices here in New York are wonderful. They have these screening rooms in the sky. I really think they're a wonderful studio, and I think a lot of people, unlike Universal, but although Universal is very successful as well, people have an emotional attachment to Warner Brothers, just like they do Disney. And so that's one of the things, I think that's one of the reasons this stuff hurts so much. Let's see here. Bye, Jeff. Jonah Jameson says, remember that the Civil War comic wasn't good. It was good. Oh, thanks, Tony Stank. The first Civil War comic was excellent. It was the second Civil War comic that they did it to try and cash in on the movie, where Carol Danvers was fighting somebody. I forget who was even on the other side of the argument that time. That was not good. But, comic books overall are not as good these days, which is also sad. Look at Joey saying, thank you, Mr. Stank. I love that. All right, I think we're ready for the next story. All right. Mika, I remember the Warner Brothers store. It was a thing of beauty. All right. Story number 3. Boom, baby. All right. I needed something to fill the third spot, and this is what I found. Apparently, 20th Century, which of course is Disney now, is talking to Brian Grazer's Imagine Entertainment about doing a 24 feature. No clarification if it would be for theaters or if it would be for, say, Hulu. Now, the question is, why on earth would you do a feature? Now, for those of you who don't recall, 24 was very, very famous for a while. It ran for multiple seasons. It was incredible. I remember I was watching it. I discovered it late, and I was watching it via Netflix when they sent out DVDs. So I would watch all 4 of the DVDs. I'd stay up ridiculously late, but then I had to stop because the DVD ran out of, there was only 4 episodes per DVD. And this was a network show, so it had like 20 episodes a season or something. So I had to wait for the next DVD to show up, and it was really incredible. It was great. You know, I really loved it. But 24, it was 24 hours. It was real time. And each hour-long episode was an hour in the day, right? So that's why it's like about 24 episodes, right? Everybody would always make jokes and be like, when does he go to the bathroom or when does he go to sleep, you know, right? But, you know, of course, it was a tough day. He didn't do it. That's right, Mika. Hijack is very similar. I love Hijack. I'm so glad Idris Elba got nominated, and I'm excited for Hijack Season 2. If you haven't watched Hijack on Apple TV, great show. But anyway, one of the reasons that 24 was so successful was that it had a real mastery of the cliffhanger ending. And it would count down because the hour was over. And every time the episode ended, you'd be like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? I need to know right now. I mean, it was just incredible. It's rare to see somebody do cliffhanger endings as well as 24 did. But how's that going to work in a movie? Right? I mean, beware the ghost of Kevin Costner with his movies coming out in quick succession. So I would think it would be interesting to do 24 as a series. That to me would be interesting. Bring it back in that way, but I don't know how on earth you would do a movie. Also, I'm worried with the way they bring back characters these days. It's got to be Kiefer Sutherland. I don't want to recast Jack Bauer. Brian Grazer apparently said they're going to redo Backdraft with Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell's everywhere, although I liked him so much in Twisters. Now I'm back into Glenn Powell. Now I'm back pro Glenn Powell. Now I'm like, oh, he's great. But I don't want to see somebody else playing Jack Bauer. Kiefer Sutherland can still do it. Give him a partner, I guess, or whatever. That's funny, Tamed 3 Bears. 24 movies? That would be so ridiculously expensive. Also, I don't want to see him passing the mantle. You know, with like he didn't have a son, he had a daughter played by, as I saw one of you mentioned, Elisha Cuthbert, who actually is, I think, retired now from acting. But yeah, I don't want to see that. You know, I just want to see Jack Bauer. I want to see Kiefer Sutherland back as Jack Bauer. Jack Bauer was a huge, huge deal. Everybody was comparing him to James Bond because, you know, they also have the same initials, right? I mean, he was a majorly iconic character. So I would love to bring him back. You know, I mean, we're all in it with IP these days. Let me ask a poll. I'm curious to how many of you are familiar with 24. Are you familiar with 24? Yes, I watched it. Then yes, I've heard of it. And then I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, 1 second. All right. Hold on. Sorry. All right. So I have no idea what you are talking about. Okay. Why can't I start the poll? Oh, it's too long. I have no idea. No idea. Or never heard of it. Sorry. I have family in town, so I'm still a little distracted. Okay. All right, I'm very curious to see the results of this poll. Very curious. When did it air, Gorka? Great question. 24 series. It aired from 2001 to 2010. Oh my gosh, that's so many freaking seasons, man. How many seasons was it? I think 7 seasons. Oh, 9 seasons. 9 seasons! My God. It was an era. It was an era. All right. So far, yes, I've heard of it as winning. Oh. All right. We'll just give this poll another minute or so, and then we'll go to the Q&A. Oh, look, Dan says, my boyfriend is obsessed with this show. I love it. With Gene Smart on it, I have to tell you, I do feel that, what was the actor's name? I want to make sure I get it right. Dennis Haysbert played the president. And that was, I think, one of the first times that they portrayed a black president in the media. So it was so popular. I mean, Dennis Haysbert was incredibly popular with fans. And I think that was important to real life. It was a big deal. That show was a very big deal. Oh, that's right, Danielle. Thank you. They did reboot the show. You're right, with 24 Legacy. Did not work out. Did not work. All right, let me close it and we'll go to the Q&A. All right. All right, here it comes. 45% of you have heard of it. 34% of you watched it, and only 20% of you have no idea what I'm talking about. So thank you for sitting through this. I appreciate that. But that's pretty good. Again, that's like 80% recognition of the people who voted. So that's great. Maria, it did come out at a different time. It was post 9/11. Obviously they'll have to make some changes. But I'm sure that, hopefully, it's a fine line. You want to evolve it to current audiences. 1 second. Okay. So hopefully they can do it. All right, let's do the Q&A. All right. Oop, got to put it in the right place. Okay, so I'm gonna do a Q&A for it's 5:39. I can do a Q&A until let's do 5:48. Mika, I will review Trap. I apologize that my stuff's a little bit been delayed, but, I'm really trying to get back on track. Riley, I plan to review Dune. I would like to. Let's see here. Taron Egerton is the new Jack Bauer. I do love me some Taron Egerton. But, I don't want I really want to see Kiefer Sutherland. He was really important. MM92 says, hi, Grace. Which would you recommend to someone to attend if they could only do one? D23, New York Comic-Con, or San Diego Comic-Con? Well, you can only do one this year or ever. New York Comic Con is a good starter Comic Con because it's not as crowded. So you can actually go to panels and see things, and you're also in New York City. And so it's not just total madness. So that's a very nice thing about New York Comic Con. But yet at the same time, you're not going to get like the Comic Con experience that you might be hoping for. If it's only one of all time, it's got to be San Diego Comic Con. That's the major convention. That's where everybody is. That's where they pull out all the stops. And just being there is an experience. D23, that's a little bit harder to navigate if you're not a huge Disney fan, because a lot of the stuff that they go over has nothing to do with Marvel. You know, a lot of it's about the theme parks and stuff like that. So that's something that you'd have to consider. So I would vote, if you're just starting out and you can do things in the future, I would do New York Comic Con. If you can only do one, San Diego Comic Con. And you can't make it, none of these can be a last minute decision. You got to plan this stuff like a year in advance. So you should be thinking for 2025, and there is no D23 in 2025. So that already settles part of the situation. Brett says, hey Grace, when are you seeing Deadpool and Wolverine? I'll talk about it after I've seen it. Let's see here, but I appreciate the question, Brett. I see a number of you agree with me. Let's see. Optimus Prime Ribs, I'm so glad you're back. I always enjoy your name. Pearl Plum Sparkle says, Grace, how do you get auditions for Hollywood films? I'm looking on Backstage for roles, but so far it's slim pickings. For major roles, you need to have an agent or a manager. That's the only way you're going to get in the door, I'm afraid. Once in a blue moon, they'll have an open casting call, but it's almost never. And it's usually for very unique, specific roles that they, you know, it's hard for the agent or managers to fill. So you should just focus on doing work that you care about and inviting agents and managers to see that work, and hopefully getting somebody to pick you up and submit you for the larger roles. Let's see here. Matt says, Grace, glad to see you're feeling better. Can I get a shout out from my wife, Trisha? It's our 11th wedding anniversary tomorrow. Hey, Trisha! Is it the Trisha who's been contributing? But anyway, either way, happy anniversary. I'm so happy for both of you. 11 years is a wonderful accomplishment, and that's just wonderful. Devin says, hey Grace, here's my pitch. Sophie Turner-Smith introduced a Storm in another universe that dies and comes to the MCU. That way, if her intro goes well, keep her. If not, she goes back to her world. We can't have that kind of a safety net. I do hope that her performance in The Acolyte hasn't ruined her chances at Storm. I do think she's still the best candidate. Mystic, my halfway year lists, I had a really rough last 2 weeks, so that's when I was going to do them. Now I'm going to hold them until after Comic-Con, and I'm going to do them in early August. So I can include whether or not, I'm sure Deadpool and Wolverine will be on the best list. But at this point, I'm so close to that movie coming out, I'm going to do those lists in August. Ethan had the same question. Yes, I have the lists even written down. I've even written out the best video, but I just really had a problem over the last 2 weeks, I'm sorry to say. But I'm going to be doing best and worst movies and TV shows. Jack, I did a Rear Window watch along that we all had together. Hey, Dory Does Voices. Thank you for gifting that membership. That was very nice of you. Let's see here. Ethan says, will you still... Oh, okay. Elias says, Hijack was awful. What? No, it wasn't. It was great. I mean, I respect that you disagree, but I really, really liked it. Let's see here. Emmanuel says, Twisters was filmed on film. Did that help the look of the movie? As I said in my review, I did not love Twisters. I thought that the original film was better in almost every conceivable way. I mean, Twisters is not an unwatchable movie by any regard, but I think it's a disappointment. Parker Worm says Apple TV Plus has the greatest shows that no one has ever seen. Apple TV is a wonderful service, and they do have a lot of really, really great content. Same, Sherm. I thought the love triangle was a huge mistake. New Joker trailer on Tuesday, Mika? I have not heard that, but I haven't checked in lately. I did ask my source because I saw people tweeting about it. Let's see if anybody's written me. No. Hold on. That would be tough. That would be a tough day. I hope they don't do it on Tuesday. Let's see here. Jack252 says, please review Palm Royale. I can't really review things that have come out already because it's too late. But maybe I'll tweet about it. I don't know when I'm going to watch it. I'm very busy. I have to watch Umbrella Academy so I can cover that. Dory does voices. Says, my girlfriend loves Hijack, but Idris Elba is her secret husband, so she's biased. That's pretty funny. Austin says, what's your Beetlejuice opening weekend prediction? I'm not going to go crazy, but I think it's going to do well. I think it's a really good fall movie. I would predict it somewhere in the 40 to 50 range. But, you know, I mean, if A Quiet Place Part 2 can open with around 50, I would think that Beetlejuice maybe could as well. Look at Jay Jonah lowballing with the 30. Nacho Flores says, what do you think of Twisters opening at 50? I think that would be a disappointment if it opened at 50. It's selling out a lot of its showtimes. I would expect it to open much bigger, but let's see. Shahar says, do you think they will move Wicked again? I don't think a movie can survive this being moved this close to release more than once. I think it's going to have a tough time. Although people are hating on Gladiator 2. I don't know why. Gladiator 2 looked incredible to me. All right. Ethan, I can tell you that Umbrella Academy Season 4 is only 6 episodes, so I think that will help it. Maria says, do I need to see Twisters on IMAX? I'm not sure. I did see it on IMAX. They played it for us on IMAX, and I did enjoy watching it on that screen. But I think any big screen would do, to be honest with you. I don't think the visuals are weak for the film, actually. All right, I have to go. I had a lovely time with you, as always. I'm not sure when my boys' breakdown is going to go up because I have some stuff going on now. But it's going to go up the latest tomorrow, and I have a special Other Boys episode also going up. So lots of coverage, and then House of the Dragon on Sunday with Movie Math, and then like next week, there's a lot. Okay, all right, I love you guys. Bye-bye.